This is a Transportation TV News Update Special Report, the AASHTO 2013 Spring Meeting, Providence. I'm Tony Dorsey reporting. More than 400 people and nearly 30 State Department of Transportation CEOs attended this year's spring meeting at the Omni Hotel downtown Providence. Rhode Island DOT Director, AASHTO President Mike Lewis said the numbers were impressive.
It's really gratifying to know that so many of our colleagues make the effort to travel on a weekend to come to the spring meeting for AASHTO so that we can share best practices, develop our policy statements, interact with our partners in the federal government and in industry to make sure that we're moving the transportation agenda forward for everybody in the country.
A wide range of pressing issues were discussed, and presentations were made by some of the nation's top transportation leaders, including Administrator Joe Szabo, who leads the Federal Railroad Administration. Szabo tells Transportation TV that his message to AASHTO's high-speed and inner-city passenger rail leadership group was upbeat.
By so many measures, last year was a record-setting year for rail safety, safest year in railroad history. Amtrak, record ridership, record revenues, and record on-time performance, all while the performance of the freight industry is also growing, near record numbers of freight intermodal shipments. And so, rail's role continues to grow in meeting our transportation needs.
For members of the AASHTO Sustainable Transportation Energy Infrastructure and Climate Solutions Steering Committee, the aftermath of Superstorm Sandy was top of mind. 6 months have passed, and New York DOT Commissioner Joan McDonald says her state is still in recovery mode. McDonald, who just took over the chairmanship of the steering committee, says participants shared a wealth of knowledge.
One of the things we're doing in New York that the sentiments and practices were echoed at our committee meeting here today is that you can't look at one set of assets in isolation. You can't just look at roads and bridges. You have to look at the transit system. You have to look at tunnels. You have to look at airports, because the weather impacts truly do impact the system. So you cannot view and you cannot look at any asset in isolation. The second big takeaway is how do we train our staffs, both existing staff and incoming staff, in how to deal with major weather events and make sure they have the appropriate technical training, whether it be bringing on some additional environmental engineers, but also that there's cross-training within the agency.
Another important event was the technical meeting of the Standing Committee on Highways. Committee co-chair Paul Deggs, chief engineer for the Tennessee DOT, says this meeting is essential for state DOTs across the country.
Ultimately, what we're having to deal with is we have a new transportation bill. When new legislation gets passed, the Federal Highway Administration has to interpret that, go through rulemaking, and so we're really in kind of a flux area right now. So we need to, I don't want to say there's a lot of hot spots out there, but we certainly want to be prepared to extinguish any fire, so to speak, before anything flares up.
Also at the spring meeting, the Special Committee on Route Numbering approved a new section of U.S. Bicycle Route 45 in Minnesota, U.S. Bike Route 76 in Missouri, and realignments for U.S. Bike Route 76 in Kentucky. With these new approvals, the U.S. Bicycle Route System, USBRS, now encompasses 5,616 miles of official U.S. bike routes in 10 states. In a statement, Bud Wright, executive director of AASHTO, said cycling is a wonderful way to discover America, get to work, and promote physical fitness. The goal of USBRS is to connect communities of all types, urban, suburban, and rural, through a network of cycling facilities that everyone can use.
We are very concerned on how to join pieces of wood.
From bike routes, we go to balsa wood bridges, made by 9 student teams from across the country, competing in this year's AASHTO Track and Rides program sponsored by Bentley. The goal of Track and Rides is to encourage young people to pursue a career in civil engineering. By building the best miniature structures, top teams win $1,500 cash prizes, a trip to the spring meeting, and some serious bragging rights. This year's first place winners in the 7th and 8th grade division and the 9th and 10th grade division were from Tupelo, Mississippi. The first place team in the 11th and 12th grade division was from Negaunee, Michigan. To learn more, go to www.trek-rides.org. That's all for this week. Our special spring meeting coverage continues next week with interviews from Federal Highway Administration Executive Director Jeff Paniotti and NTSB Chair Deb Hersman. Thanks for watching.